Boxing truth here. Let me bang out this video real quick. Don't have much time, so just a quick video about Terence Crawford and how he's avoiding the big money showdowns, the lucrative paydays in the welterweight division. Terence Crawford rather stay at 140-pound weight class and become undisputed, perhaps the weakest and worst division in boxing. The thing is, I don't know if anybody really cares of him coming undisputed of this weak-ass 140-pound division that is lacking name, star power, and money fights. All that's pretty much an important component when it comes to this thing called prize fighting. Now, Terence Crawford, he's agreed to terms with an opponent named Felix Diaz, an Olympic gold medalist from Dominican Republic of the 2000 Beijing Games. Diaz is a solid opponent, could provide some problems, stylistic problems for Crawford. Southpaw can fight on the inside. He's coming off some momentum. Has been jumping up and down divisions, looking for marquee fights. He's been calling out Terence Crawford the longest, and it appears he's going to get his shot. Whether the terms are in the best interest of his promoter, as DeBella complained about the deal. His promoter is Lou DeBella, Felix Diaz's promoter. But he ends up getting the fight that Felix Diaz has been clamoring for, and it looks like the fight's going to go ahead on May 20th at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. And this is going to be Crawford's best opponent since Victor Postal. It's been a drag for Terence Crawford's career ever since he won Fight of the Year. Just been involved in showcase fights, fighting Al Haymon Wasteman, looking like shit in the most important fight of his career, a unification match to determine the number one fighter in the 140-pound division. And he holds that lineage. He holds that crown at 140 pounds. He's considered the top dog at 140. But he's talking about he wants to become undisputed at 140. He wants to stay in the division. He's comfortable. While all the big money fights, the fights that can really take his name into the next level, another stratosphere, are 7 pounds north of him in the welterweight division. But I don't know. Terence Crawford has been reluctant. I'd rather stay in the division where there's fights there that really not many boxing fans could really give a shit about. Who the hell wants to see Crawford fight Ricky Burns again? Who's really clamoring for a Terence Crawford versus Ndongo fight? Whoever wins that Ndongo-Burns unification match later this year. There's really nobody clamoring for those fights. Terence Crawford already defeated Ricky Burns, and no one really knows who Ndongo really is. We still need to learn more about him. But at the same time, no one's clamoring for these fights. All the marquee names have jumped out of the 140-pound division. Adrian Broner was the last marquee name, as he has stated his intentions to stay in the welterweight division. So where does that leave Crawford? Crawford, for some strange reason, would rather stay in this weak-ass weight class that is not giving him the big or money or the type of fights that can take his career to the next level. Now the Crawford fanboys are going to say, well, what about Golovkin? Why the fuck he ain't moving up? He's ducking Ward. Well, if Golovkin's division was as weak as Crawford's division, and if Golovkin had all the money fights 8 pounds north of the 168 pounds, then I'll be saying the same shit about Golovkin. But if that's not the case, there are marquee fights to be made at 160 for Gennady Golovkin, especially since Canelo is still out there, and Billy Joe Saunders, he holds the last belt. At least Billy Joe Saunders got a fucking personality. At least he creates emotions to the audience that tune in to watch his interviews or watch his fights. And there's still that people would tune in. They will care about this significant matchup at 160. And it's been a long time coming since Golovkin has had a hard time in trying to establish his goal at becoming the real world middleweight king, holding all the marbles at 160. Now, Crawford, his situation is a lot different. He's probably in the weakest division of boxing that I can... I mean, you look at the top 10 of the 140 in the Ring Magazine ratings, and it's a bunch of who cares bouts that are there. You got Crawford at number 1, and you got a bunch of guys that are okay fighters, solid fighters, but they're not big names. They're not really threading the needle when it comes to potential matchups. Now, this Felix Diaz fight is a decent fight, but it doesn't necessarily thread the needle for me. I mean, Diaz is an unknown commodity, really. only known and really amongst boxing circles. He could provide a stiff test, sure. He could provide a scare for Crawford in terms of competition, but it's not exactly the fight I'm really clamoring for when it comes to Crawford's career. I want to see Crawford in some marquee matchups, an Adrian Broner, a Keith Thurman, or eventually the Pacquiao fight if he's willing to move up in weight. But he hasn't showed any desire to move out of the 140-pound weight class, and nobody really cares of him becoming undisputed king of the worst division in boxing. So Terence Crawford, step up, bro. After this fight against Felix Diaz is the most worthy opponent you fought since you unified the titles. You fought a wasteman and John Molina the last fight, got a layup. Now you're going to get some competition in Felix Diaz. We'll see if this fight becomes official. All I know is they agreed to terms for a May 20th showdown at the Prudential Center in Newark. And hopefully Crawford will start stepping into these marquee bouts instead of settling for HBO showcases. I mean, yeah, it's fine when you're getting paid 7 figures for these showcases, but at the same time, it's time to reach to the next level. It's time to get to that big stage. We're waiting, Terence Crawford. Let's see if you finally move up instead of avoiding the big money showdowns in the welterweight division. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.